Well,
I mean, not how long, how wide, you know, 3-inch or...
no, they're just 1.5 inches.
Yeah.
It doesn't even that thick, but it's the strong.
No, I should think they'd be
It's
strong.
really strong.
I mean, really, what you'd use for a horse would be strong enough, maybe, for a dog
And
team.
that's a really strong kind of leather as well.
Yes. You mean these are going to be patterned?
Yeah.
Yes. But when he's wearing it, it won't look like a money belt, will it? Otherwise, they'll rob him. Ah, it's just going to be embossed. Are you going to think of any colour? I mean, is it going to look like a cowboy belt?
It's just going to be like a normal belt.
But in fact, it can contain a lot of money. Yeah. Yes, yes. You have to get your dimension. How big's a pound note? Does anybody know how big a pound note is? Yeah, you're going to have to get your pound note dimensions really accurate, aren't you? I'll see if I've got a pound note in my purse and then we'll check that.
Are these the size of the shoes okay?
Well, that feels all right to me. This is for the invalid.
Yeah.
Well, that feels nice and flexible, doesn't it? Yes. Well, now, you better measure it. You'll need a micrometer, won't you, to check exactly how thick it is. Mark it out and put on your job sheet just what thickness you're using. Any limited price? I think you better find the... get all his prices from his best to his not so good. I think for this dog team we'd better have the best. But tell him what it's for and then he could make a judge as well as us.
Is this camouflage right?
Yes. Now, you've got it cut out, have you? Yes. No, I think it'll need hand stitching. I think this is going to have to be hand stitched. You've got the sort of two pieces together. Now, what we need is to get these pockets on, isn't it? Are you ready for sewing on your pockets? 3 millimetres. You've done it on the micrometer, have you? Right. Yeah, put it on your job sheet. Have you not got a job sheet for that yet? I'll see you get one in a minute. Yes, now, you've got this... which bit have you stitched? This part here? Right. Now we better get all these pockets cut out and get them put on. And when you've cut them out, lay them on and I'll come and have a look at them and we'll fit the water bottle in and some ammunition and such. Does anybody know where I could hire a bit of ammunition or something to test it for size?
Johnson's down the road, they sell quite good guns and I'll go and phone them.
Well, he can deal with it. He's dealing with the camel bag. I think we've got to check the size of things, don't you? But they're not going to like it if you just phone up for a gun and ammunition. I think you better go down and explain. Or maybe take the saddlebag down and the cutout. What do you think? Have they said how big this fella is that has to travel on public transport with money? No. Well, look, I'll tell you what. Ring Barclay's bank and ask them what size of belt. I suppose we could work it out. Does anybody know what's a good average size for a grown man to have a belt? You know, for this money belt for Barclay's courier. 28 inches waist.
The cutting machine's
what?
cutting.
No, I'll see to that. Well, cut it by hand. 32. What's your waist sizes?
My dad's waist is 40.
Your dad's waist a 40. Well, then we need at least a 40. I mean, is he a good average man size? Well, then, I think make it 48 or something like that till we can check. Is it a revolver they'd need in the desert? I mean, they'd only really need to shoot their dinner, wouldn't they, really, I suppose? I don't know whether you use revolvers for shooting your dinner or what. Does anybody know? Does anybody know what sort of guns you use for hunting your meal? You know, this is desert. This is desert travel, a double-barreled shotgun. Well, that's more than 7 inches long, isn't it?
That's about 10 inches.
Well, maybe we're just making a slot for the thing and it sticks out at the back, maybe, so you wouldn't hand-stitch across there. As long as that's wide enough for the shotgun stock. We're not taking shortcuts on invalid boots. Get your needle out, get your specs on if you need them, and get stitching. People, can I just stop you a minute? We're now getting to the stage where the designing we've done that can be done on paper so that you can put it outside of your head onto the tables has to now be got into the mind. So can you just find a chair at your workbench for a minute with whatever you're dealing with, and we'll just have a little working out this business of the mind. I'll bring my chair because I think I need a chair for this as well. Supposing you tell me something difficult to sew in leather, you know, like I might be doing a job. Invent a job for me like I invented jobs for you. Do you think of anything that's really difficult? Yes. Heavy army boots, right. So well, suppose I've done my heavy army boot design just like you've done your heavy leather boots and designs for camels and dog harness. So I know now in my mind what it is I have to do. And a lot of you know exactly how it's going to be joined up because, of course, you've designed it carefully and properly, haven't you? So now I can sit back and I can say, well, if I'm going to make the lace holes first for my heavy army boot, what sort of a punch will I need? Now, of course, I haven't got a table like you have, so I'll have to put it down, and I might do some measuring so that I get it right. But all this is now in my mind. It's not on the paper. It's on the real leather in my mind. Do you see what I mean? So I'm going to make the holes, you see, and I'll know if it's very difficult, and I won't rush anything. And then when I've made the boots, the holes, you see, I might be ready then for stitching that bit to another bit. So then it's a case of finding the thread in my mind, isn't it? And I'm sure I wouldn't be able to break that heavy sewing thread for leather, would I? No. So I might have a cutter, you see, at the side. And then I'd have a look at all my needles and pick out, well, now, this is the best, with quite a thick cowhide, I would think, for army boots, wouldn't you? So I want my cowhide needle. And then I can thread it, and then I can pick it up, and I can start sewing. And I can't hurry it, because every stitch has to hold. Remember, this is Blackley and Broadene boots. Do you see? Now, what I'd like you to do now is get to this second stage, where all this designing now comes into the mind. And we become makers of shoes and boots and dog harness and camel bags and elephant shoes, and we do the work. If I have preconceived ideas about what should be in their minds, I think I'm neglecting my job as a teacher. However, I would also be neglecting my job as a teacher if I didn't have preconceived ideas about what learning is possible in this work that they do. The learning that already not only has been possible out of the work they've already prepared, but the potential in what they have prepared is quite enormous. The filling out of forms here in technical language, not lay language, but technical language, you know, how many stitches to the inch, what size of wax thread, and so on. Hours per job needs to be filled out in shoeman's language, you know. The curriculum just opens out because, of course, we have this context. So we've sewn this with number 12, eh? Right. You sew the buckle on at that end. I'll hold it. Bend the leather over the buckle. You've got to sort of see it in your mind, haven't you? Thread it through this way, and I'll bend it up for you, and you hold the two together. Now, I think we're going to need a punch, you know, to make holes big enough, don't you? It's so thick.
I've cut them all out and stitched on it with stitches.
Yeah, this is the gun holder, is it?
Yeah. I've stitched all the rest onto there. It's finished now.
Yes, well, now, what you're doing is you're finishing before you've really done it. You're trying to finish the bag, aren't you? Well, in this sort of stitching, we're not trying to finish, we're